Good morning, Kit 1 primary, second and third graders. This is lesson 7 of inheritance and traits. So happy that you guys can join again. So in our last lesson, we had some friends join us to answer some different questions or help us answer some different questions. They were our models for that last lesson. I'm also waiting for friends to send in their different traits that they found and observed about themselves, so we can upload on those on our video in our next lesson, and some friends can see some different traits that are similar or different from them. So in this lesson, you are going to be able to use a reference text, which we've used before, which is called the Handbook of Traits, to figure out some different observable traits that are similar and different from others. So we're looking for similarities and variations. Remember, similarities are things that are the same, and variations are things that are different. Before we push on, we're going to look at our vocabulary words. And we're going to also see our big question. Our big question has for this lesson is, how are organisms the same and how are they different? We've been learning different things about how organisms are the same and how organisms are different. So we've been learning more and more and more. And by the end of all of these lessons, we'll be able to answer this big question. We haven't got to that big question yet. So we're going to look over our vocabulary words. Organism. Organisms are living things. Anything that is a living thing is a organism. Anything that is a living thing is a organism. Thank you. Trait. Trait is a characteristic. This is anything that you can see and observe about different things. A trait is anything that you can observe. Variation. Variations are differences. So these are the different things that we see when we observe different things. Species. Species is a similar group of organisms. Like we talked about human beings being a species. We are studying those wolves, those gray wolves, and that is also a species. Species is a similar group of organisms, living things. Inherit. Inherit is things that you get from your parents. You get all the things that make you who you are from your parents. Those things get passed down, and that makes you look the way you look. Environment. Environment is what is around you. Genes or DNA. These are instructions for traits. So we have genes and DNA inside of our body that make us who we are, that makes our face look the way it looks, makes our voice sound the way it sounds, makes us taller, makes us shorter, makes us who we are, and our parents' DNA combined to make us. Offspring. Offspring are children. Reproduction. Reproduction is when parents make children. And this is a family tree pedigree or chart diagram showing a family. So a family tree just basically tells everyone who was in your family who was before you and after you. So like you can say your grandmother, your grandfather, your great grandmother, your great grandfather. Yeah, like it goes all the way up. This is a family tree. Generation. This is a group of offspring. So you might have like cousins, brothers, sisters. This is a new generation. Your moms, your dad, your aunts, your uncle. That's another generation. Your grandmother, grandfather, great aunt, great uncle. These are your a different generation. These are all different generations. Life cycle. Cycle is birth, growth, reproduction, and death. So when we see that life cycle, seeing how things grow up, this is a life cycle. And we're going to stop our vocabulary words from here. We're going to learn all these vocabulary words throughout our unit, but we're just going to stop there for now. So, still focused on inheritance and traits and learning different things about inheritance and traits, so we can go back to Yellowstone National Park and figure out why that wolf 44 is a different gray than the other wolves. So, we have a quick warm up here. In my warm up, I want you to use evidence below and figure out what are some similarities and variations of these three dogs. So this is your thinking task. I want you to think what is similar and what variations do you see with these three different dogs. We're not going to take 3 minutes to do this warm up, but I do want you to think about the similarities and the variations. Get ready, go. All right, cool. So I know we had different answers. You can keep on thinking. Put the video on pause if you need more time. If not, I'll tell you some of the things that I found or things that I know that you guys found as well. So we see these three different dogs. So dogs is a species. Now, these are all dogs, but as we see, these dogs have different observable traits. So, for example, I see dog A. It's a white dog with a brown spot around its eye. I see dog B. I see three different colors of brown. I see some darker brown ears, a lighter brown spot around the eye, lighter brown face. For dog C, I see a light brown face with darker brown ears. So we see that these are all dogs. However, they're obviously not the same dog. So some differences that I see are that they are all look different. I see this one has like a kind of like a potato head, while this one has like a rounder head, and this one has like a small little tiny pea head. So I see different heads throughout the different dogs. I can see different colors of brown. I see that these two dogs are a lighter brown, a darker brown, and the dog A is a white dog. So these are differences that we see. I see that um, this dog has a smile is kind of on its face. This dog has a kind of sad face with a tooth. This dog has like a mouth under the face. These dogs A and dog C both have a round nose at the tip, while dog B has a oval shaped nose right in the middle of its face. I also see some similarities. I see that they all have two ears. I see that they all have two eyes. I see that they all have brown inside of on their face. I also see that they all have noses. I can see that two of the dogs have collars with a circle, like a gold circle around it. So I see similarities and I see differences with these three dogs. So we can always observe or look for different similarities and different variations of the different organisms that we're looking at. And remember, organisms are living things. So we see living things. When we see living things, we are looking at organisms. And these organisms, we just observe some different similarities and variations. So, quick turn and talking. You can turn and talk, and you can think about talking with Mr. Jennings, talking to yourself, or talking with a partner or someone that is next to you. How can we describe the traits of organisms in a species? How can we describe the traits of organisms in a species? Get ready, go. So if you need more time, like I said, put it on pause. If not, I'll say how we can describe different traits. We describe these different traits by looking at them, by observing them. We can see the different traits that organisms have in a species. We can also notice the type of behaviors that they have. For example, if you have a dog, when people come in the house, maybe the dog barks. That's an observable behavior. That's something that dogs do. That's the behavior that it has. Or maybe um, when a cat, if you have a cat, you notice that your cat jumps off of different furniture when it's scared. That's also a behavior that a lot of cats might have. So we can observe different traits inside of organisms inside of a species. So traits can vary even though they are the same species. So just like we just saw those three dogs before, we've seen different traits within the same species of dog. This tells me that there are different traits that make us who we are and make those dogs who they are. So we're going to be looking at this reference book, which we read before, which is called the Handbook of Traits. And we're going to be looking at some of the organisms in this book and see what similarities or differences that we can find looking at a specific organism. So this is the table of contents. I want to be looking to see what example I'm going to give you guys. I'm going to choose. Uh, hmm. We're going to maybe look at the Harlequin poison frog. This is on page 20 of the Handbook of Traits. So I'm going to go here. We see the Harlequin poison frog, and I'm going to read page 20. Harlequin poison frogs are small, brightly colored frogs that live in the rainforest. They can be almost any color, and they often have stripes or spots on their bodies. They get their name because they have poison in their skin. Harlequin poison frogs eat a variety of small animals, such as ants and termites. Most animals cannot eat these poisonous frogs. Here, right under that passage, we see these different harlequin frog. So harlequin is the species. Sorry, is the species, but we also see different variations of frogs inside of that species. Harlequin poison frogs can be many different colors. So these are the a variation that we see here. I'll move on to the next page. The easiest variation to see in harlequin poison frogs is their color. There is some variation in size and also in what they eat. Harlequin poison frogs also raise their offspring in different places depending on their environment. For example, if there are trees with leaves that catch water, the frogs will lay their eggs in these pools of water. Some of the animals that harlequin poison frogs eat are also poisonous. They're not poison enough to hurt the frogs, though. In fact, the frogs get their poisonous trait from their food. Harlequin poison frogs are not poisonous until they eat poisonous animals. The frog's skin become more poisonous when they eat more poisonous animals. The strength of a frog's poison is a trait that it gets from its environment. So here, if you have time, you can get a paper and a pencil or a paper or anything you can write with, and we're going to go through some similarities and variations about the harlequin frog. So here, I'm going to put this here. Okay. I'm going to start with this page first. I'll put my picture. So here, you can put for your title. You don't need to write everything that is on this paper because obviously you don't have the actual paper. But you're just going to put Harlequin poison frog on your paper, and we're going to be looking for, sorry, two similarities and two differences. If you send me this in, I will also give you extra credit on your and in your science grade. So if you send me a picture of one of the different organisms that you looked at, then I'll be able to give you some extra points, which will be awesome. So this is on page number 20. We're looking at the Harlequin poison frog. Looking at the harlequin poison frogs, some similarities that we see. I want you to take a second and think about a similarity that all harlequin poison frogs have. I'll give you a second. Get ready. Go. Cool. Who can tell me one thing? One thing that I know is that they all harlequin. Sorry, that's good. Poison frogs are poisonous. They're all poisonous. How they get their name? It's one similarity. All harlequin poison frogs are poisonous. What was one variation that the book said the harlequin poisonous frogs had? They are sorry. Harlequin poison frogs can be different colors. Another one that I thought was super interesting is that they all aren't the same amount of poison. It says the frogs can become more poisonous when they eat more poisonous animals. So they, I'll just put a day for this one. They all are not the same. Oh, sorry, they all do not have the same amount of poison. The poison comes from different poisonous things or animals they eat. So if they eat a really, really, really poisonous frog, the frog will become really, really, really poisonous. If they just eat a little bit of poison, like a snake, then they will just be a little bit of poison. So their poison can go up or down depending on what they eat. Need another similarity. So another similarity is most animals cannot eat poisonous frogs. Most animals cannot eat poisonous. Sorry. frogs. So, I'm spelling this wrong. O-U-S. So I'm typing too fast. Most animals cannot eat the poisonous frogs. And also, they all start as eggs. They all have 4 legs. They all have 2 eyes. And for variations, we see that they're different colors. We see that their poison can be different. We also know that the similarity, they all have the same life cycle. What else can we find here for variations? Um, hmm. I can put some are poison and some are not, because it has to eat something poison first for it to become poison. So we have our different things here. If you need to go back, you can rewind your video or pause your video to have some of these similarities and variations we have about the harlequin poisonous frog, which was pretty good. So variations are differences. So this will also be in your exit ticket. Variations are differences. So you can also record 2 similarities of species that you find interesting from the book. Now I know you guys don't have the book here, so you can just say, like, you can use 2 dogs. You can go on Google and type in 2 different types of dogs, like a poodle and a Rottweiler, and see the differences that you can see of the 2 dogs. You can see any different animal that you want. You could maybe use sharks. You can use dolphins. You can use whales. You can use ants. You can use any type of animal that you want. And if you want to push yourself to go further, you can find those 2 similarities and 2 differences or 2 variations of a different type of species. So we read this already. We have our similarities and variations of our harlequin poison frogs. You'll be able to share out these different things with me once you send them to me. And I'm also waiting for your last videos of your different traits that you have. So that's the end of science today. Can't wait to see you guys next week. Love you. Stay safe. Stay in your shelter in place. Make sure that you're using masks if you go outside. Make sure that you're taking care of your body, taking care of people in your family, checking up on your family. So that's it for today. Catch you later.